Hello. All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right. Let's say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Do you want this? No. All right. Y'all welcome Coach Schoening today.
All right, good morning. Can you hear me? If you don't know me, I'm Coach Schoening. I know some of you younger ones don't. A little bit about myself. I was born at a very early age. So bright, it's true. So bright, when I was younger, my mom started calling me son. Come on. No, really, I've never done chapel before. I've been here 8 years. I know that's hard to believe that they've let me stay that long. And I always thought if I was going to do a chapel, it'd be my last day here. And some of y'all know that if you have me in class, that I'd fire and brimstone and then end it with who I liked and didn't like and walk out. But in reality, when Mrs. Hutton asked me less than 48 hours ago to do this, something came over me. I guess watching Tuesday's chapel, watching somebody that young come up here and be vulnerable and talk about what they talked about, and they can share that, then I can share too. One of my biggest problems is I've always spoke with my heart, and that gets me in trouble because sometimes you're supposed to think before you talk, and I'm not big into that. And some of you know that. I really think also they are scared of what I'm scared of what I might say. So the main reason I haven't done chapel too is I really do not like talking in front of people. I never have. When I was in elementary school, I was born in East Texas, and I talked real fast, and I couldn't say my R's or S's, and I'd spell words like D-E-H-T. So back then, they would pull you out of class, and they'd make you go to this special room, and they would do speech therapy, which made you a real easy target because you go to this school, you know kids are mean. I remember being in high school, and in English every year we had a 3-week unit where it's speech. The teacher would come in and we'd have to give speeches. I hated it. I'd get so anxious before. I'd get sweat. I'd get sick. I'd make myself nervous. I'd sign up for the first speech and then bail out because I didn't want to go first. So I'd give the last speech. And then there's always that kid. You have one in your school, I'm sure. They'll come, hey, what'd you get on your speech? Knowing you barely passed because they got 100. That's why they're asking you so you can ask them what they got on their speech. We know you're special, right? So the thing is, I've never gotten over, I don't really call it a fear, but I've never gotten over I don't want to talk in front of people. I just feel led to do what I do. I feel led to teach. I feel led to coach. So God hasn't gotten that fear out of me. He's just gotten me through it. So as I was thinking about what to talk about, I was like, this is easy. No vaping, no fornicating, right? But I couldn't get the shirts made in time to hand them out. So I decided I'm going to go a different direction. I was standing there outside my room, and somebody was going in the room across, and I heard a girl talking about a friend being shady. I think she said shady. It might have been a bathroom issue, but I'm going to go with shady, okay? So she was talking about her friend being shady. So on Monday in my economics class, we decided economics was boring, and so we talked about relationships. And so that kind of put me on to what I want to talk about today with relationships. So I have the privilege here of getting to coach junior high. And I get a privilege of coaching some of these kids when they're 12 years old and then they're 18. I lost a couple years ago that still hurts. They're in college. They left us. All that. They moved on. But I get to see how you develop, and I get to see all the angles of the grades here. And so think about when you're in elementary school. When you're in elementary school, you're friends with who? Normally friends with parents. Your parents are close. Or you meet this kid, or you have the same commonality, you have something together. And so your biggest issue in elementary school is, who am I going to play with, right? Remember those hard days? Who am I, or am I going to be left out? Because as a parent, when you go somewhere and your kid's left out, it's like a dagger in the heart. You're ready to go jump kick the Pope because your kid's over there by herself. And if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about because it hurts. And so you go through elementary, and you hopefully have some friends, and you have these groups, and you're spending the night at each other's house because you're cool. Then you get into junior high, and things change a little bit. You have sports teams. You have these different things, and so this is where you really start getting together or separating. And you go spend the night at somebody's house, and you don't invite somebody. And then you put it all over social media about how cool your party is, and they weren't invited to. And then we wonder why depression and teenage suicide's high as it is, because you're living a fake life. And then we get into high school, and this is where it changes. And this is where it gets hard, but it's where it can get better. You make different teams. You play different sports. You go to one act. You go to band, whatever it is. And your friend group starts changing. And you don't know why. Your relationship starts changing. You start noticing people of the opposite gender. All right? Unless you're in California and they don't know. All right? And so you start noticing people of opposite, and relationship starts changing. Here's the deal. When you start reaching high school especially, your friends want you to do good, but they don't want you to do better than them. Think about that. So jealousy sets in, pettiness sets in. All these things sets into your group. And if I'm offending you, you're the problem. So all this happens. So sometimes you're moving on, and so instead of walking with you, growing with you, they stay stagnant. Why? Because misery loves company. Get around a negative person. It's too cold. It's too hot. Think about a lot of farmers. It rains too much. It doesn't rain enough. I never get texts. My phone's blowing up. It's my brother. Too many times we keep trying to put the square peg in the wrong hole. We try to stay in groups. All right, and I tell my teams this all the time. When somebody talks bad about you, what should you do? You better go high-five somebody because you're doing something right. When somebody tries to break you down, you got something so good they want it, or they would never talk about you. I heard somebody last year talking bad about me. It was a teacher, and I went home smiling. My wife said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Somebody at school don't like me." She go, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Because I intimidate them, because I got something they ain't got." So think about that. Why would you break somebody down? See, sometimes you keep trying when that person isn't. When you text somebody, you snap somebody, and you say, "What's going on?" and they don't respond, that's a response. Why can't you be honest? "Hey, I don't want to hang out with you no more. I'm done. I've moved on." Respond. See, there's too many times some of you grow up and you move up with the grades, while some of you stay in your cliques because you don't know how to mature. And breaking people down make you feel good because in reality, you don't like who you are. My brother told me a story the other day, and I laughed to tears. He told me the same story again. I laughed again. He told me the same story. I didn't laugh at all. He said, "If you can't laugh at the same story over and again, why are you crying over the same person over and over again?" See, I've had my heart broken many times by a lot of people, not just boy-girl relationships, by a lot of people. Every time I've had my heart broken, it's improved my vision. And if you can't do that, you're living it wrong. Happened to me the other day. Somebody came at me, improved my vision. It's that old saying, that's why U-Hauls don't have mirrors in them. Because you move forward, don't look back. Sometimes you got to cut people out. If you don't have loyalty with friends, that's okay. They're not your good friends. Be friends with them, but don't be good friends with them. What you want in a relationship is a family relationship. About 5 years ago, I was coaching basketball here, junior high basketball. Things weren't going great. It was a hard season. The old saying, overwork, underpaid, whatever. And I'm in class, and I'm actually having a good day. This is when the devil comes. I'm having a good day, and I'm teaching. And Coach Daniels comes to the room, head basketball coach. He said, "Can I talk to you?" And I could tell by the way this short little lady was talking, this wasn't going to be a happy talk. I don't like unhappy talks. So we go to the phone booth. My English peeps know what I'm talking about. So we go to the phone booth, and she tells me that this parent had a 9 PowerPoint presentation over how Hitler was a good man compared to me. And that's not true, but it was a lot of complaints about me. And so she's going into this deal, and she tells me all these things that were said about me. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I tried my best. I'm trying to, I made a lot of this I stuff instead of God things. And I was distraught because we all lie. We care what people think. And I always remember, I didn't even say anything. And Coach Daniels put her hand on my shoulder. And she prayed over me. And this has never happened to me before. I'm almost 40. And I've never had anybody put their hand on me and pray over me. And Coach Daniels prayed over me. But more importantly, she prayed into me. She didn't berate me. She didn't belittle me. She didn't break me down. She prayed over me. And my relationship with Coach Daniels grew, but here's the key. My relationship with Christ grew. And if you ain't in that relationship with someone, get out. Boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. If your relationship with Christ isn't growing, you got to get out. Not too long after that, a couple of years later, somebody said they didn't want to go to third period, so I'm trying to hook them up. Not too many years later, my mom gets sick. We don't know what's going on. You in my class the other day, when I came in with all that baggage, you were there. She gets sick. I don't know what to do. We might have to move her in a home, so I go to Mr. Lithicum, miss the guy. Joseph, miss the guy. Go into Mr. Lithicum's office. I say, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what it's going to entail, but I'm going to have to maybe miss some days. I got to move my mom in this home. And, of course, she's like, what's those days matter? Right? This is what's important because we family. And so he sits there and he prays with me. See, I went in there thinking I was going to have an obstacle. He went in there and he was paving the way for me. Right after that, I see Miss Hutton, and she gives me this book, which I never finished, Miss Hutton, sorry. You know why. And poured into me over this. I'm walking to make copies. I'm going through all kinds of stuff in my life, and I see Mrs. Israel. I ain't said hardly any words, Mrs. Israel. All I know is she knows a lot bigger words than I do. And she stops me in the hall and asks me how my mom's doing. For a year, every time I saw her, she asked me how my mom's doing. You know why? Because words matter. How you treat people matter. And she made a difference in my day and didn't even know it. I put my mom in a home. If you ever had to do this, it's hard. She got dementia. I remember going down there for the weekend to see her. I think I was by myself. And I've got to leave to come back to Midland. So I'm trying to get out of there. And my mom won't get off my arm. She won't let me go. And so as I'm trying to shuffle to the door to get out of there, she keeps saying, I'll go with you. I want to go with you. Don't leave me here. I want to go with you. And if you got to do that for your mama, I'm telling you, it ain't easy. So I was a coward, and I said, I'm going to go sit back down with you. Maybe you fall asleep so I can get out of here when you don't know about it. But 3 hours went by, and she's still not letting up. I've got to go. So I'm walking out the door, and she's still squeezing my arm, saying, I want to go with you. Don't leave me here. I want to go with you. The staff got to pull her back. I got to watch the doors close and hear my mom screaming. And I walk out, what am I doing? See, I used to have dreams or nightmares that I was trampled to death by elephants. That's true. Now I got more real nightmares that I got to deal with because that's a hard thing to do. So I drive back. I'm all distraught. I come to school the next day. I don't know why. I go into my fourth period. I'm about to teach. I ain't said nothing inappropriate. I ain't even told a joke. About to teach my class, and a hand goes up in the back of the room. It's Caitlin Grigsby. Some of y'all know who she is. She said, Coach, we've been thinking about you. Is there any way we come up there and pray over you? My instinct's like, no. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't want nobody touching me. I don't want nobody praying over me. But she's the homecoming queen. So what you going to do? So, Andy, you got big shoes, right? So she comes up, and this class who, when I started the year, I wouldn't have picked half of them being there. I thought I didn't like any of them. They come up, and they start praying over me. One by one, not all of them. One by one, they start praying over me. And I remember their faces. I remember what they said. And it didn't matter that they were just 16 years old because they knew words matter and how you treat people matter. Then we go, I'm trying to go fast, I'm sorry. Then we go to senior trip at the end of that year. I room with Mr. Hull, which is awesome because he always gets in trouble and I don't. So we go on senior trip, which is fun because you get to be with these kids you've been around with all the time. We have our normal day. We're by the pool, and boys all got their shirts off, and we got 3 shirts on because we're at that way in our life. And so we're sitting over there. I go to bed that night at 2 o'clock in the morning. I get the phone call. My mom passed away. I don't know what to do. I'm keeping this joker up. So I lay in bed in the dark. And the worst thing you can do is sometimes be alone with your thoughts. I'm thinking about what all I got to do. I call my wife in the morning because there's no use calling at 2 o'clock in the morning. She answers the phone. Happy anniversary. I forget. We've been married 19 years that day. I said, hold off on that because this is what happened. So I go downstairs, and I know I got to get a plan of action. I come down the lobby of that hotel, and there's a big live oak tree down there. And the sun's coming up, and there's all these birds and squirrels down there eating that they just fed them. And the sun's coming through this tree, and there's a man sitting on a bench. True story, sitting on a bench. That normally means it's live. He says it's a true story, but this one is. Light coming through, and it hits his white hair. And I was like, is that Jesus? It was Eddie Lee. And so I go, and I sit down with Eddie Lee, and I say, tell him what's going on. And being true Eddie Lee said, well, you can take a bus to Kerrville. I said, I ain't taking a 56-passenger bus to Kerrville. And that was big for Mr. Lee, let you drive his bus, right? And so I sit there with Mr. Lee, and I tell him what's going on, and he prays over me because we're a family. I still don't know what to do. My sister's in New Zealand. I'm in San Antonio without a car. So I go this big nature hike they have there. It's beautiful, except for they keep saying watch out for rattlesnakes and skunks. So I'll do this whole hike. I get back around to where everybody's eating, and it's mid-morning, and sitting at the tables, there's Coach Edwards, and there's Coach Grizzard, and Whitney Newman, and Abby Claire Brown, and they're eating breakfast, and I hadn't even had a chance to really say hi, and Jared Lee comes up, and he gives me a big old hug, and he says, I love you, brother. Is there anything I can do? Because we're family. And then I look down at Cretia and Kelsey, and they don't know what's going on. I said, well, my mom died last night. And they both start crying. I hadn't even cried yet. So I'm like, why are these people crying? I said, you don't even know my mom. And it dawned on me, they ain't crying because they care about me. They're crying because they're having empathy for me, not sympathy for me. They're not sorry for me. They know what I'm going through. Because 8 years ago, God put them in my life. And I spent many a JV trip with Cretia, and I know about her dad. And we got Kelsey only for one reason, because of what happened to her dad. And we got to go through life together. They were my family that day. That's what I love about this place. That's what I love about Midland Christian. We're a family. And that's what always scares me when things change or we get new people. Because some people try to turn this into a corporation or a different school, and that's not what it's like. And if it gets that way, I'm out. Because you should be family. Words matter. How you treat people matter. Went to my 10-year reunion. I wish I could say the other day, but it was a long time ago. It's at my 10-year reunion, and a guy I know was there, and he graduated from a great university, that one where if you meet him, you talk to him, you got to kiss the ring every time university. And he graduated with honors and all that stuff, and he was a smart dude. And I asked him what was going on. He just got a new job, making a lot of bank. And he said that over 100 applicants were put into that job. And it came down to the last 5, and it went to references. And he saw one of his references, a guy he knew that they called, and he said, hey, what'd they ask you? How did I get this job? So how'd you build me up? He said, he only asked me one question. It wasn't how many years did you start for football. It wasn't how good your volleyball hit was, or if you're the lead in the play, or if you got a 0 on a chemistry test you knew nothing about. He asked that guy, how did he treat other people? That was the one question that decided that job. Let's pray so y'all get out of here. Dear Father, thank you so much for today. Thank you for everybody in here. Help them to build their relationships. Help them to grow in their relationships. Help them to know that words matter and how you treat people matter. Amen. Go to class.